our president, Jerry. I will call the meeting to order at, I don't know, 2 after, I think, according to Rich's watch, 2 after 3 o'clock. So let's go with roll call. Sherry is here, Shelley is here, Rich is here, and Jerry is participating online. So we have, and I am Ken. I'll fill in for Jerry today. That said, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. So in today's meeting, we have some items that we will break for in closed session. These are pending existing litigation in the case of Velez versus Seneca Hospital District and Robles versus Seneca Hospital District, and then Health and Safety Code 32106, which is a report on involving trade secrets. So we'll break for that later in the agenda. Okay, and that takes us down to our public comment period. And I'm not sure.
I did not receive any.
This meeting is being recorded.
I did not receive any.
You didn't receive it? Did you want to say something?
Not really.
No, not really? Okay. Anyone else say something to the public comment section? Anybody online?
I have none, Ken.
Okay, thank you so much. So item number 6 is the approval of the minutes from our press meeting on May 25th. If you've had a chance to review those, and if you have any comments, now would be the time to do that.
I move approval.
Second.
Okay. Shelley?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Did I get everything? I'll vote aye as well, so approve the board minutes from the May 25th meeting. And that takes us to Donna, on the fire sprinkler subcontractor. Donna, are you with us?
I am.
There you are.
So yes, we are looking to get board approval to proceed with having Bolt contract with the fire sprinkler designer in order to make sure we're not we're getting them allowing them to get the information they need to proceed with the design of the building overall and specifically that system. Are there any questions on the information that was provided?
I reviewed this and I was just struck in some line items, there was big differences. And in the final cost, they were very close. And I didn't quite understand that. I don't know if you can speak to that or not.
Let me pull that up.
So I'm looking at the fire suppression item number 2 under wet systems, and I'm seeing one for $61,250, the other one for $12,500. So there's quite a discrepancy there, but at the end of the day, when you look at both bids, they're very close.
Okay, so you're looking at the comparison of Costco and overhead fire protection, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a curiosity question for me more than anything.
Yeah. I hear you. I see that there's kind of some give and take. Like I haven't done the line by line math, but I see the pre-construction is, much higher on the Costco, but not as much on the overhead fire. And then we've got more line items on the lines 8 through 11 down below. yeah, you know, frankly, I also am looking at the bottom line.
Okay,
So,
It almost looks like that the added figures here that the other bid didn't
Yeah,
have, that's where the
I
difference is.
just wasn't
So
sure of that.
looks like it's how they broke it out.
Yeah, it's more rolled, one was rolled up and one was actually.
yeah.
And then the lead times, 4 weeks versus 8 weeks after pre-qualification, I guess. What is the pre-qualification? I'm not tracking that.
So I would say that that is after they have been selected. Lead times.
It's a good
I
point
would
because
say
I'm just
that-
wondering why.
I don't know why it says after pre-qual. I would think that it would be after approval or after approval of their contract is what I would think that means. So I'm not sure why it says after pre-qual.
8 weeks to start or 4 weeks to start after approval, is that what it is?
Yeah, but it is 4 weeks. I mean, what Costco has is 4 weeks after approval, they would be able to have the submittals available for review by the
And then
design.
Donna, sorry, the one question that I had was, it looked like there were 3 that had planned on submitting bids. Do we know why the third one didn't?
I asked the same thing because I saw the same thing. I was like, wait a second, we're missing one. And they said no, they had said they were going to and then didn't. So we did only get this.
So why didn't, I have a question, so why didn't Overhead Fire Protection submit a prequal? And Costco did, but Overhead said not submitted. By that point, were they not interested or were we not considering them?
I don't know if they were anticipating doing that. Oh, perhaps that's why they said after prequal. So the pre-qualification with Bolt is there's a whole process that Bolt has to pre-qualify their subs, and so I'm guessing that Costco has done other work with Bolt that means that they have already gone through the pre-qualification process, which is, you know, providing their financials and providing their legal information and providing their insurance, all that kind of thing, to show Bolt that they are able to meet the requirements of the that Bolt has for their subcontractors. So overhead protection. So now that you point that out, yes, that they haven't submitted their pre-qualification, so therefore they're saying after they pre-qualified up in line item number 2, they would have their submittals. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but is there further?
No, that's good, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so we're being asked today to approve this contract.
Approve. So it's all part of Bolt's contract. So it's not that you aren't approving. You've already approved Bolt's contract for the 55.5 million, and
Right.
we're kind of inching along with releasing the dollars to Bolt to make sure that it makes sense to release it at the correct timeline to not overexpose the board. So this is something that we're asking to be able to move forward within that 55.5.
And Donna,
So-
what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is that they need to move forward with this, and they have confirmed that it's within their allotted budget for this line item. So there's really no, in order to keep the design moving forward, they need this to happen. So my
Yeah,
recommendation.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I meant which subcontractor? Costco?
With Costco for the fire sprinkler design, yeah.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Okay, so that's it. Any other comments, questions? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
Jerry said she makes a motion.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Charlie seconds. Sherry?
Yes.
Rich?
Aye.
Charlie?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, so
Thank you.
passes. And so item number 8 on the agenda is a request for a special board meeting on July 12th. Donna, can you speak to us about that?
I can. So definitively, I'm going to need to bring to the board. We're getting the responses to the licensed timber operator, and I'll go over more of this in detail when I give the summary, but we had to put it back out to bid, and so we're looking at receiving those those updated proposals on July 7th as a deadline, and I want to make sure that we have the vehicle in place to get that approved so that we can proceed expeditiously with having that work done. So it's
Okay.
anticipation of that. We likely are bringing some more financial information at that time too, but the driving force at this point is the licensed timber operator contract approval.
Okay, so let me just kind of serve a little survey. Here's present a conflict for anyone? No conflicts?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
It's a Wednesday, right? Yeah.
Gary?
Works for me.
Okay, works for me as well. So if I could have a motion here, we'd go for it.
A motion?
Second.
Shelley makes motion, Sherry seconds. Jerry? Your vote?
Aye.
Okay, Rich?
Aye.
Okay, and Shelley? Sherry?
Aye.
Okay, so I'll vote aye also. Thank you.
It's 1 PM.
1 PM on July 12th. Right here,
I'll send out a calendar invite for everyone as well.
okay.
Thank you.
I was a little confused on item number 9 on our agenda. Is there action to be taken on this?
No action, they had no meeting, so there's nothing presented.
Okay. We'll just jump forward over
Oh, hold
that.
on, I'm sorry. Can I interrupt for a second? Don't we need to approve the appointment?
Oh,
Right,
yes.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we have an initial appointment for Heather Smith and a reappointment for Bill Watson and Aaron Munjar. So can I have a motion to make those appointments?
I move.
Sherry moves. Second?
Second.
Okay. All right, Jerry? Your vote to approve these?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Aye.
Okay. And Rich?
Aye.
All right. Policies and procedures, no action.
Wow, I can't.
I know,
You're
don't
ruining my whole
look at your
comment.
horse in the mouth.
Yeah.
It's gonna come.
Oh, it's gonna pile up.
All right. Item number 11, our financial report. I'm assuming Steve is with us.
Hello,
Hello, Steve.
howdy. Okay. So we are looking before you are financial statements for the month and 10 months ended April 2023. Quick note, with the approval or the agreement to meet on July 12th, I will have May's financial statements for that meeting, and then we'll be presenting the preliminary June 2023 end of our fiscal year financials at the regular July board meeting at the end of the month. So there's the update on that.
Okay.
So for the month of April, Kelly, this is one of the interesting months that we have where the impact of the supplemental IGT payment programs really impacts our financial statements, and in a very good way, but it's a unique thing to us. So for the month of April, we are reporting a net income of $3,176,000 versus a budgeted net income of $2,769,000. During the month of April, we received or accrued $3.5 million in supplemental IGT revenue related to mainly in this month, the rate range program, and had budgeted 2.9 million. So there was a positive variance of just under $582,000. Also in April, we received our first property tax installment. And this was unusual because those payments are the first installment typically will go out near the end of the calendar year. So it would have been December 2022 or maybe early January due to issues within the Plumas County Recorder Auditor's Office. These disbursements were delayed, and we'll hopefully see the second installment soon because we would typically receive it in June, and we're at June 28th, 29th here. So, but soon thereafter. So the amount that we received for the property tax was just over $374,000. We budgeted $290,000. So a positive variance of $57,000, which is indicative of the growth in ad valorem taxable value within the Seneca Healthcare District taxing district. So that was good news. Interest income was positive as well. Again, same story. We get a quarterly disbursement from the local agency investment fund, LAIF, and it's on July, October, January, and April of each year. And so we received our April disbursement. It was well above the budgeted amount. Right now, we're earning about 3.25% on the funds held with LAIF. And I will also be bringing some information about some investment alternatives for the district at the July 12th meeting from a program that's run by the California Special Districts Association. Very interesting. And so like I said, I'll be bringing that July 12th. So really what drove the month of April was a supplemental payment, but also all of the items within the non-operating section were positive, except for one particular item. Under non-operating income and expense, we had a loss of just under $41,000 on the disposal of our old phone system. And the way this works in accounting world is that it's a capital asset. So we capitalize it and then depreciate it over its useful life. In this case, we disposed of it before the end of its useful life for accounting purposes. And so it had book value, net book value, difference between cost and depreciation take to date or accumulated depreciation. And that number was $41,000. Going up into the income statement, we had very low inpatient revenue. We were well below budget, just over $200,000 negative to budget for inpatient revenue. Outpatient was slightly below budget or negative to budget. So total patient revenue was negative to budget, $251,000. We did have a small positive variance in contractual adjustments. Thank you. Contractual adjustments, mainly due to the lower revenue, as our net revenue percent was slightly below budget. So overall, our net patient revenue was negative to budget, $177,000. Expenses were slightly over budget. Salaries and wages were negative to budget, as was contract labor. April was a month where we first started to see the real impact of Cerner, additional staffing that we brought in, additional hours worked by our own staff to, at that time, prepare for the go live, which was scheduled for, original one was scheduled for April 26th. So, and then obviously we subsequently have gone live, and we'll see a continuation of that salaries and wages with contract labor into May and also into June, where there's additional hours and staff related to both the implementation, continued implementation in May, and the go live here that we've gone through in June. Everything else was pretty much in line as far as expenses. There was a significant increase in our days cash on hand from 160.5 to 196.38. This was solely related to the receipts associated with the various supplemental payment programs and the property taxes we received. Accounts receivable unfortunately grew again in April, and we'll talk about that a little bit or a lot in under the HRG item. So that was April. Any questions or comments, concerns?
My concern is on the revenue side.
Yep.
What's the feeling? I asked Sean the question because
That's, there's nowhere to go but up. We can't control a lot of the hospital work, but you know, it's a matter of building back the clinic with providers that are accepting patients. Locums are fine, but a lot of people don't want to establish because they know they're sort of revolving.
right. And we had in the chatter we mentioned specifically this person's only going to be here for 5
Yes,
months.
we do. We try to keep them where Heather Smith, who we've just approved, was coming Monday, but now is not coming until August. There's some family things going on. She needed an extra time. She will establish full time, so she'll be working on establishing. It's just a matter of providers in the clinic that are here full time that the community wants to engage with. And then of course the ER and the inpatient, we usually don't control any of that. It's just sort of comes in as they flow. It's all about volume. I think we
How
talked
about
about this.
long-term care?
Yes. I've stopped asking when our project's going to get done because it just,
That's been complicated also around the Cerner protocol.
Yeah.
That we wanted to get all of our billing processes in place with Cerner R1, all of the, and the other one that I can't, AmeriCare, I think it is, before we started admitting additional
the additional two,
residents.
yeah.
And so now with things getting pretty tightened up in that regard, we still have been working the list because we've had a waiting list for a long time and seeing who might still be interested versus some people are no longer interested or they're no longer alive.
So that's the skill. I can tell you that the bricks that we have laid, and this is not going to answer your question about our volume, the bricks that we've laid allows us to add volume, like triple our volume without adding any staff or any kind of tech. There's no new processes need to be put in place. The focus now that we've gone live with Cerner and a successful go live with Cerner, by the way, we'll be talking about that, is to focus on, like we already haven't been, but focus on permanent providers and then really promoting those providers into the community so that people understand that they're here. We really do a drawback of our community back to Seneca. Once again, it really does hinge on the ability to get full-time providers here. And I just don't even know I don't even know how to say that. I don't know what else to do. We're trying so many different approaches. We've got different technology, focusing and directly sending to them instead of blanket mailers. We have new technology that can send them information about us directly.
So is it your knowledge that no one is having success in the similar environment that this is just a universal
Yes.
fact of life?
I hate to say that, that's the way it is, but I can tell you that that's the way it is in healthcare. We fight against everybody else that's recruiting for family practice and primary care. We just have to make ourselves, what is that added value? That's what we really have to accentuate to our recruitment efforts is what's the difference?
How many mid-levels are we trying to recruit?
We're recruiting both
All providers.
family practice and mid-levels. We're open to both. We do have to make sure that we understand that mid-levels have to be supervised.
Right.
And they can't be supervised by locum. We found out they've got to be on staff. So we've got to be a little careful about who can do supervision, who can't do supervision for whatever reason, and then can we bring them on and meet the requirements of the law?
Right.
It's moving a lot of pieces around. The biggest thing is recruitment of family medicine doctors that are accepting patients.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And to answer your question, Rich, I've never ever seen healthcare like this in my life. It's just so difficult to get doctors in this market.
We interview every single
Everyone
candidate
comes
that's
across.
put in front of us.
I mean, we're
We've
tomorrow.
been
That's
doing this for a number of years. I mean, this is a new phenomenon since you've arrived.
No, it's
But it is the key to our success.
absolutely.
The piece that jumps out at me here is the clinic visits are down in a pretty big way.
Well, and they were dropped, not in April, but we started dropping them off a little bit for our implementation because we were supposed to go live in April, remember that, we pushed it, so we started backing away a little bit so that physicians had a chance to learn. So you start seeing the effect of this from both the directly infused decrease of their docket to the fact that we only got one physician that's accepting patients right now, and he's a local.
And the walk-in clinic has problems having a provider in there. And we were
Yes.
there the other day and
Yep.
there wasn't a provider in the walk-in clinic, so that all correlates.
This is, we have got to turn all of our attention now that CERN's done and our final pieces of design. We're about to turn this over to Bolt to do project management to really get the thing going. I think all of our attention aggregately across this enterprise has got to be focused on the recruitment of physicians and practice. Because we can accept any volume now, literally. We could do 12,000 a month. We could do a lot of volume here now.
So to what degree, I think one of the things we offer here, hopefully, at least during the tourist season, starting about now, or maybe a month ago, is convenience for people who are up here. But I suspect people are going home to get their care.
Well, they're not going to establish the primary care up here. I mean, our primary care is going to focus on our community.
I get that.
Our ER it's always getting busier. Our walk-in should be getting busier.
That's where I'm
and that's just the seasonal stuff that we experience.
But I'm wondering if there's some messaging we can do to people who drive back to Chico or back to Reno when they're not feeling well, to get them to come here to the clinic. Just a convenience factor. We're here, we're quality. I don't quite know how we target that population, but
We have got to get on the market that way. But if I'm going to market, I've got to have someplace for them to go. There's got to be someone to see them. I'm filling with locums, and frankly, I'm spending a lot of money on locums, but it's better than the alternative,
right,
which is absolutely no one takes on patients.
When we, just out of curiosity, when we interview, in other words, we get a warm body candidate,
Yep.
blood, and they show up for an interview.
Yep.
What is it that primarily they don't meet our standards, or what is the reason that they give, if any, for not accepting a position?
Oh, that's an easy one. So I can tell you that our recruiters get feedback from the people that do come here and interview saying it's one of the new processes they've ever been through. I mean, we show them everything. We get them out of the lake. We have them we have a comprehensive time here. So it's not that. Most of them have said no. It's a partner decision for the most part.
I was afraid of that.
And we'll have one of them that's just hot for it, but it's a joint decision we recruit both. We recruit physician and their partner and their family. We don't just focus on them. And it's just a matter of, it fits one bill, but it doesn't fit the other. There have been a couple, and I'll be very frank with the board. There have been a couple that have come here that we have said no to. Now that sounds like a completely ridiculous thing to do.
If you got a bad
But we
match,
have said
then-
no.
liability.
Well, once again, I've said it to the community and I'll say it to the board, we're not looking for somebody with a license in Bogomir. They've got to be engaged in what Seneca's becoming. And our sense during the interview process was they're going to be completely retrograde to the spirit of where Seneca's headed. So we have said no, which hurts, you know, it stings.
Sure.
But it's a short-term gain or a long-term pain, what we want to do.
So is there anything you're gonna do differently?
Yeah, I mean, the Chelsea and Jerry have been working on different avenues. We are accepting 2024 residents, like we have an interview tomorrow with a 2024 residents. We're trying to get ahead of it months before we graduate.
I found something unusual last week. I had my meeting
Yeah.
in Southern California. I was talking to a number of physicians, very high level physicians
Mhm.
at city locations,
Mhm.
San Francisco being one. They're having real problems at UCSF because physicians are leaving. They don't want the quality of life there anymore. I was shocked because I thought they'd go to San Francisco, knowing what San Francisco is. But where are these docs going?
Not in
You know?
California. You know, we pay very well here, but they pay taxes. You know, they can sit across the border in Nevada and make every bit as much as they can make here and pay a much lower tax. So the California itself is a hard recruit. It really is difficult to recruit here because of the taxes they're going to pay. Now, we can't control any of that, you know, but we have to be cognizant. This is the thing that really we got to be careful with, is getting out over our skis as it relates to the reimbursement structure. You know, we have excellent reimbursement for doctors. I mean, they get paid good money here, and we've kicked it up. I've talked to Steve, and we've moved it up and up and up. Where do you stop?
My point in bringing it up is there's a change in the cities that maybe we ought to be looking at people from the cities who may want a different type of lifestyle. I have no idea whether they'd be interested in Chester, but I know they want to bail from the cities.
I think there's some merit to what
Some
you're
of
saying.
that.
You look at places like Santa Cruz, the highest rents, that's been all over the news lately, Santa Cruz County in the state. And, you know, you can't imagine people wanting to stay there with that economic environment.
Well,
So you're kind of thinking in terms of looking at an institution and specifically targeting
You know, that may be an approach.
their staff?
That may be an approach. I know.
Yeah, because like you said, if we.
Hey,
we're
I
going
think
to
the posters-
attendance
we
stuff,
can put posters up over for now.
No, don't go local. We don't want to
Well-
get rejected when we need to.
You know, that's really interesting. There's been a lot of chitter chatter. There's been a lot of talk, but I tell you what, when the rubber meets the road, getting people to leave, even as horrible as it is, you know, let's just say in Los Angeles, as terrible as it has become, and Helen complains about it, and the traffic and stuff like that, to dislodge them from something that they have known, to come up here is a fight. It's a fight.
I just told you they're having a problem. Their doctors are leaving and they can't.
And then you told them all about us, right?
No, that wasn't my job.
Well,
Yeah, and hold on, if I can interject for a second to Rich's question about what we're doing differently. Sean has talked about doing more direct recruitment versus relying as much on recruiters as well. Now that Cerner is mostly behind us, being able to have the bandwidth to direct recruit so that we can be more selective about how we're getting the people in the interview.
yeah, sure. Boy, and I tell you, it's not gonna take more than a couple.
Yeah.
That's all we need. We've had so there's been some movement with some of the ER, you know, physicians that are down in the emergency room, and they're seeing, God, in 12 hours, they're seeing 35 patients, and they want to come up here, and they think it's gonna be slow. I mean, there's been some movement there, but family medicine, family practice is the one area that there's a huge issue with the number of doctors. They've all gone into specialty, right? So family medicine doctors, especially those that want rural, that's, you take the pie and keep cutting the pie, just keep cutting it, and then we're all fighting for them because I think we talked with Enlo and spoke with Enlo. How many primary care doctors are they down? Third.
Yeah.
Something like 28.
Yeah.
The size of the community.
We talked to
They're losing
Oroville, and
people.
Oroville is down, good night, 50%.
So we are recruiting, we are reaching out to the medical schools.
Medical schools, yes, but the interesting thing about medical schools is they will not post anything in their offices. They just won't. They refuse to post anything. But our recruiters are reaching out to all the new graduates. I've asked them to focus on the rural, the ones that really focus on the rural.
Mhm.
And they do that. And we've got, like I said, we have an interview tomorrow for a 2024 graduate. So, I'm very curious what the board has in mind because we're really beating our head against the wall trying to figure out how to be that, to erase all the noise. There's a lot of noise out there. We got to be that one voice that they hear. And I'll give you an example. So Dr. Bacham that came here, Iris Bacham is a locum. She has told at least 10 of her resident people that is the greatest practice in the world. So they love it when they get here, when they actually practice. She put it out there. She said, man, if I wanted to live in California, it'd be right there because it's a great practice. It had a rhythm to it. It wasn't overburdening. Every 10 minutes you got a new patient. So we have a lot of things that are valued. It's a matter of finding those people that are looking for that value and recruiting both of them.
We've even had people come up to check us out. We showed them our old electronic health record and they said, there's no way.
Yeah.
It's hard enough. I'm not gonna do this. So maybe Cerner will help
Little.
set it in a very provider, user-friendly way.
Well, the thing that would help is to have a
Data.
scribe
Data.
and a transcription so they don't have to do any of that. But
Yeah.
Well, I think everyone's used to Dragon One now. That's pretty
Voice
standard.
recognition
but,
system.
But yeah, it actually, the HR did chase some people away.
Yeah, just so the board knows, this never leaves my brain. It's a constant thought process on how we can recruit, do things differently. Where are we missing the mark? It's constantly on my mind.
Let's throw something out there.
Sure.
Probably long range, pie in the sky stuff, but has there ever been any thought to some legislative relief for this? Requirements people becoming licensed at a grad school to become doctors, spend X amount of years or X amount of time in primary care?
The only legislation that I know is the independent practitioner legislation that's moving through, where nurse practitioners and PAs no longer need supervision,
Right.
depending upon location. That would help us a lot because then we don't really have to have that supervisory role. But that legislation, whether the American Medical Association is fighting that like crazy, that they don't want nurse practitioners to be able to do primary care.
It seems to me that a good foundational experience would be primary care for all physicians.
Well, yeah, but that's, the big money's in all the specialties.
Yeah, it's not gonna, well, yeah,
Yeah.
but if you want to get there, you got to go
Yeah.
through a couple of
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, so I can tell you, I don't know the silver bullet on this one. I don't know the magic mix. We're just gonna keep throwing it out there
Well,
all
here's
the
a
time.
thought. What about physician conferences? They go to a lot of big conferences that are
Having a
widely
presence
attended,
there,
widely attended by many physicians. Could we
I mean, there's
somehow?
conferences for family medicine. There are conferences for rural
Mhm.
practices that we could have a presence if we want to have a booth. I can tell you that, and then maybe Rich would have a perspective on this, that when I had my company, we were at all the trade shows and they're very expensive to go. And I think that I don't think I yielded one sell out of a trade show. Now, that doesn't mean that exposure is part of it, knowing that we're here is part of it. Is that really worth the cost of going to
I don't know.
these,
Just
or do
put
we
it
stick
down.
with our recruiters, which are expensive as well, but so far, big goose egg.
Yeah,
Um,
try something different is my thought.
Well, let me try to move the agenda here.
Yeah, sorry. That's-
And
It's a big deal.
I want to just encourage,
So it is all volume.
Yeah.
It's all about volume.
let's, we failed to accept the financial report from Steve. So let's get back to that, Steve. I hope you're still with us. So unless you have something else to add here to that discussion, quickly, we'll go ahead and try to move accept the financial report.
So move.
Okay, Rich,
Second.
Shelley. Sherry, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, Jerry, your vote?
Aye.
Shelley,
Aye.
Sherry? Did I call you already?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll vote aye.
I vote twice, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so we've accepted the financial report. I'm sorry, vote please. I missed somebody. Rich,
That's okay, Rich, I voted.
was that an aye? I guess that was an aye. Okay, so agenda items, informational only. Steve, I guess you're up again with the HRG report.
Correct. Okay. As my father used to like to say, same song, second verse. So the report from HRG, this is for the month of May. This will be the last report that we have in this manner from HRG as far as the depth of information, because they will not, there's 4 days of revenue in June that are being billed by HRG. From June 5th on, the Cerner revenue is being billed by the new company R1. So we'll continue to monitor our outstanding accounts receivable that reside in the evidence system, but won't have the depth of analysis that that you're seeing here. So as I mentioned to start with, the AR days remain high. They did come down a little bit. It really, again, it revolves around the long-term care claims. And so the good news is that this is not entirely reflective of the May numbers you're looking at right here, but as of our most recent analysis of the claims, they're still outstanding in June, the majority of them. The biggest thing that's affecting us here is the conversion of Medi-Cal beneficiaries, long-term care beneficiaries, the conversion from traditional straight Medi-Cal into a managed care program. And in the case of Seneca, we had 7 residents convert from straight Medi-Cal into managed care Medi-Cal. 6 of those went to California Health and Wellness, and 1 went into Blue Cross. And that's just been, to say the least, but at least now we have, we've been able to get some traction on the majority of the counts. 6, gosh, I might miscount that. Actually, it's 8 of our residents. 8 of our residents converted. 7 California Health and Wellness, and 1 Blue Cross. So 6 of the 7 California Health and Wellness, we've submitted claim. We've received the treatment authorization request, TAR, all approved, and we've submitted claims twice. It's been a back and forth with them. We believe we had agreement with California Health and Wellness as to what a good claim looked like. Sent it to them, sent all of the claims to them, sent 1 claim, and they said, yeah, that looks good. Then rejected that, and then rejected the other ones we sent along with it subsequently. And we at least have, they have acknowledged that they have the claims. They also are now acknowledging that that they believe everything looks right and they don't know why it's not processing. So we think in the next few days that we will be able to either get an approval for payment or definitive answer of why they will not pay our claims. So
How much money, Steve, how much money are we waiting for?
A whole lot of.
For these 7 accounts?
Yeah, well, I'll break it down this way. So as of this week, we have $765,566.65 in outstanding third-party long-term care claims. Of that, $437,254.36 are the 6 California Health and Wellness claims that we have the traction on, if you will. We also have 2 other long-term care residents that what I'm calling are conversion TARs. So they're residents that everyone didn't go at the same time. These have converted, 1 to California Health and Wellness, 1 to Blue Cross, and we still have not received the TAR approval. And those 2 accounts represent right now $145,733.60. We did receive notice of a payment had been issued on one other resident account for $44,000. Another resident account, we have a set to pay for $43,000. And then there's a TAR in process for a straight Medi-Cal. So that should not be a problem. Getting both approval and then the payment once the approval's there. And then we have one, that one's $67,460. And then we have 1 resident account that we're in the process of doing a payer appeal, and that one's with Partnership Health Plan, which we also have 1 other resident under that pay source. And that was the other resident that's under partnership was the one where the payment had been issued. So that's where we're at.
All right. Any other questions for Steve on the HRG report? All right. That's it. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Those are some significant numbers. I'm glad you asked that question. All right. Don, I guess we're going to bounce back to you on the critical access hospital helicopter landing site.
At all and everything else, right?
Yeah, everything else, right?
All righty. So looking at the report that was provided to the board, just going through that, noted the general for under CEQA, the general and SHD approval again is complete. As of June 13th, the GPA general plan amendment rezone is also complete, approved by the Board of Supervisors at that date's meeting. So the next step is LAFCO. We did get the approval from County Board of Supervisors on the tax sharing agreement on 6/20. And we are tracking for the meeting with LAFCO on July 17th for them to annex the property into CPUD. So we're closing the work on the CEQA process and associated local approvals. Moving on
Donna, do we have a time for that yet?
I do not have a time for that. I can get back to you, but I do not have a time for it at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Making a note. Okay. I'll find out.
Thank you.
So then NEPA, so we had we have submitted the environmental assessment that was required by USDA. We had received comments back on the 15th, and we have resubmitted the responses to those comments / edits to the EA as of Monday of this week. We are pushing as hard as we can on USDA to get that moving forward. We know that there's a 3 to 4 week time period for the noticing and public comment. I see that there's an error, typo on that. So it's 3 to 4 weeks for noticing and public comment. And we're pushing to be ready for being able to do our timber removal on starting the week of July 24th. So obviously, if you do the math, that the time frame is pretty darn tight there. And we have a meeting with USDA on Friday, so that we're doing everything we can to push that forward. And of course, as referenced earlier in the meeting, working to get the LTO in line to meet that requirement as well.
And Donna, what's the difference between if we have a 3-week comment period versus a 4-week comment period? Like, what would make it 4 weeks versus 3?
They just gave us a range for how long it takes for them to get the noticing out, and then the public comment period. I believe the public comment period was 21 days, but they need but they're allowing some time for them to get those notices out. Is how I understand it.
Is the full loan approval, is that an issue?
That's scheduled for late September for the full loan approval. Is it an issue related to what?
Well, USDA is also indicating, again, that full loan approval is required prior to the site activities beginning.
Yeah, that's been a bit of a point of contention with the USDA, where our initial understanding and documented was that we could start harvesting and do ground grading upon completion of NEPA. Donna, you can jump in here anytime you want.
Yeah.
That was they crawfished on us a little bit and countered with saying, no, it requires a full application.
You want me to?
We are going to, when we get NEPA, we are going to start, well, this is a discussion with the board, but this is, we are going to start our harvest plan and get going because our project timeline is at risk now. They basically said, the USDA says that if you do that with just the NEPA, then you just so you know, you're going at risk because you don't have an approved application. Now, do I think that they're going to deny our application? First of all, they don't tie them together. They don't get mad that you do that. They're just saying that you don't have a guarantee that you're going to get funding from the USDA.
In other words, they're telling you you're taking the risk.
You're taking the risk. There's no indication at this point, we'll be talking about that more on the special meeting, but there's no indication right now that our USDA, that our feasibility and our financing would be something that they would deny the application to. Right, but there's a lot to this. If we wait, we miss the window and we're a 9-month push on the project and millions of dollars. So this is something we're gonna have to discuss in more detail. Donna, do you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, just that USDA has indicated, they're indicating that if we were to take a step backward and say, there's phases to the USDA approval. So we know we need to get NEPA approval, and they have told us that period, if you start any site work without NEPA approval, USDA can no longer consider your loan. So we know NEPA is absolutely required, and so we're pushing hard on that. They've also indicated that the loan approval is not going to be, it's not punitive for us to have started site work. It's just that we need to know that there's no guarantee on the loan approval until the loan is approved. So that is how that's the information we're getting now from USDA.
So the NEPA, so acting on the NEPA is, they don't consider this not a punitive thing to the loan application. So either we're gonna get the loan application approval or we're not.
Mhm.
Okay, and if not, then plan B, we have to go plan B anyway, right? So
Right.
So there's no prejudice that's going to be ascribed to.
that is what they've said.
Okay.
Yeah. They just wanted to know that you go at risk because you don't have an approved application. You know, we are really, really moving chess pieces on the board here. Once again, and we're going to be explaining all this, and we have the financial side-by-sides to show that if we push the project, which is, and we can explain what that means by the 9-month push, what it costs us to push that project past this, if we don't do our harvest plan or work this fall, what that looks like in the project plan, and how that affects our total fund, and how it affects the total cost of the project. So we go get NEPA, now we're pushing hard on NEPA because we're running out of time, and we go at risk without the full official application, the approved application. We go that way, or we look at the tune of a few $1 million additional and wait. So there's a time delay and money expense. So
And you'll discuss that more in our
we're
next
going to be
meeting.
we're going to give you it's going to be side by side.
Yeah, more about Plan B.
So I'll hold
Plan B.
I'll hold questions related to
Yeah,
that.
we can talk about
That's what I was thinking.
how Plan B is drawing up. Okay, so yeah. All right, sorry. That's for the
Yeah,
next
no,
one. Go for it.
And then just to kind of put a pin in that, or put a stopper at that, we're just trying to make sure that we're doing everything up to the point to not delay. We're trying to take away all the constraints that we possibly can leading up to loan approval, site start and loan approval, and just making sure that we're not holding back on any of those constraints as we're learning, as we're trying to figure out the timing for the loan approval. So just making sure we're moving consistently forward on everything we possibly can. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Okay. Heliport. So I provided a document that Sean had located related to the emergency services landing site versus the heliport. And reason being is we closed out the RFP process and only received one proposal on this scope of work to be for the heliport consultant at a cost of $90,200. Knowing that, along with knowing that we're ideally wanting to maintain as many trees as we can, both on site as well as, a concern that was expressed from Collins of, are we talking about clear cutting this path? And essentially, if we were to try and do the heliport with that flight path that has been designed, it's pretty darn close to that. And so the costs, as well as the impact to the land, caused Sean to take a closer look at finding another solution. So he's found something that is appearing to be extremely feasible and beneficial. This emergency medical services landing site was reviewed, Sean, and I'll pass this to you in a second too, with the flight care pilot that did a flight with Sean and Judy on Monday of this week. And Sean, do you want to give the feedback on what that looks like?
So when you to make it an official and licensed heliport, it requires the FAA involvement. It requires Caltrans Department of Aeronautics involvement, and then there's a lot of restrictions as far as the FADO and the approach and the requirements of a landing heliport. But there's the emergency landing site. The site basically is a location that's designated for the helicopter to land. The only difference is between a heliport and a helicopter landing site is that it's not marked with a big H. If you mark it with a big H and you put specific lighting there, then it's required. The requirement is you must file and get the DOA to approve it, and you must file and get the FAA to approve it. So I started calling around to some of the other sites, and most of them have landing sites. They don't have the H on it, and they're accepting helicopters constantly. So we reached out to Flight Care, to the chief pilot at Flight Care, Roger, and said, "Hey, Roger, take a look at the landing, take a look at the approach from the air, and give us advice on what you think." His perspective, and I can put it to Judy, was, "My gosh, this is easy. This is going to be easy. Just give me a big pad. Don't put an H on it, put Seneca on it or something, you know. Give me a windsock that's lit on the building. And this is a great approach. This is easy." So I think we're going to lean towards, based upon this information, into the landing site. We're just not going to mark it with a big H. We're not going to file it.
Same place.
Same place, same location. It's actually going to have fences. It's going to be raised. It'll be heated. This is very specific about when you have to call it a heliport, and that is literally certain markings. So,
You know, I watched them land in Chico on top of the roof of the hospital, and I was kind of, ooh.
Pretty scary to watch.
well, and if you look at in Portola at Eastern Plumas, they literally land on a grass knoll right in front of the hospital. It's just grass. So this is going to be well defined. It's just not going to have the markings of a heliport, and that gets us around the requirement for this, and quite frankly, around the requirement for this consultant.
There's no limit. It says for no more than an average of 6 landings.
Landings with
per
patients.
month.
We don't land patients here with
We're
patients.
just sending
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, that's very, if you do more than 6 landings with a patient in per month, you have to be a heliport. But we don't land with patients. We take patients out. So
Okay.
we meet that as well, those guidelines.
So is it,
I was just gonna note that the other thing to keep in mind is if at any point the facility decides that they want to change it and get it certified as or approved as a heliport, everything's going to be designed such that you have the CEQA approval, you'll have the NEPA approval, you'll have everything in line. So if you ever wanted to make it more formal, you could.
We would add the required markings.
yeah, my mind goes to, what if we have another big fire and someone's injured and they need attention right away?
I'm going to ask for a waiver.
Okay.
I think that an emergency, and that's why we're building this thing large enough for Black Hawk helicopter, because in a national emergency or an emergency, whether it's the volcano or whatever, it's going to be the Air Guard that's bringing us out, not the flight cares, the care flights of the world. So it's large enough to land. We're just not going to designate it as a heliport. It's going to be a helicopter landing site.
And if we had an event that required multiple aircraft, we still
Use the
have
airport.
Right, that's true.
You can still use the airport.
But in fact, you don't have to build anything. All you need is a flat space, right?
Yeah, we don't have to.
Trees.
We don't have to build anything. In fact, Roger goes, "I can land right there right now." But having a little bit of elevated pad with fences to keep critters off, and big rock to keep the dust down and things like that. And
Heated,
the stuff that's what's that?
heated too?
It is going to be heated to keep the snow off, so that we're not constantly shoveling. Yeah. So, and I found out that even with a heliport landing site, you can actually put lighting around the perimeter of the heliport, the helistop, the heli site. You can because that does not qualify as a heliport. There's very specific markings that make it a heliport.
Okay.
So we're gonna
Interesting.
read the letter of the law.
Very.
Yes, in the minutia is, all right.
Can we all jump in our cars and go out there and put our headlights on it?
They come in with NVGs, they have night vision goggles.
Right.
So they don't want any lights.
They don't need the light.
Right. Okay, Donna, I think we move on to the harvest plan.
Okay, sounds good. So since I provided this report, I have further information. So not only has the timber conversion plan been approved, the timber harvest plan is also approved at this point. The timber conversion plan has been recorded with the county, and we are good to go for getting for moving forward from a regulatory perspective with the harvest plan. For the LTO, we are looking at, again, as I referenced earlier, getting the proposals back. We, when we got the proposals from the first and second round, we had stump removal as part of that scope of work, and hoping to be able to hand over the site to the general contractor with a clearer slate. But what we learned from talking to touching base with one of the LTOs that was included in the third round of RFP is that the stump removal proved to be part of the problem with not getting responses, because it's not a typical scope of work for this this type of vendor for the LTOs. And so we have made this RFP to have the stump removal as an optional alternate. So they're able to provide pricing if they choose, and not required to provide that pricing. And we're simultaneously getting alternate pricing from the civil contractor that's under Bolt to have those stumps removed. And so we're figuring out where that stump removal goes, but definitely for the tree removal itself, we're looking at those proposals coming in 7/7, and that's why we were that's what initiated the request for the 7/12 special board meeting.
Donna, do we have proposals that are already in?
We received one proposal from round one, and then you may recall we put it back out because we had to extend. For the round one, we were saying that the work would start in the middle of June, and then with NEPA pushing everything out, and with NEPA pushing everything out, we knew it was going to go to the middle of July. And so because we were unsure whether the timing was preventing other entities, other LTOs from proposing, we put it back out to say, okay, our timings changed. Does this allow, does anyone else want to propose based on the new timing? And we still only got one back, and it was more expensive than the first time.
So for me, it raises the question, are we in competition with what's going on fire related around here for harvest?
They're all very busy.
Yeah.
Are very busy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We had two.
Yeah, and so then again, we put it back out, knowing that we were completely out of budget at that point, and needed to put it back out, and so thought of use that stump removal as a potential way to make sure that we're opening it up to more, and making sure that the right people are doing the right scope of work. Okay, and then as referenced here, we are contracted with the biologist that's doing the floristic and biological site surveys that are required from our mitigation measure plan, and so they are contracted. They've done some of their work, and then we'll be back out within 14 days of starting our harvests as required by the mitigation measures. And then a dust control plan will be going through the Northern Sierra Air Quality Management District. So that in talking with them, that's a straightforward approval there. So it's just providing them the information, and they're indicating they're not even really sure it needs to be done for the timber, but we'll make sure that it is, just to make sure to not have it. There's no reason not to do it, and then that way it's covering both the timber and the subsequent construction. No update on Wildwood easement. Financing, scrolling down to USDA financing. We have gotten most of the information into USDA. We've gotten comments back on examine forecast PAR, and as I've referenced earlier, EA. Again, as this is indicating, we're looking to get the EA approved in order to move forward with the site work, and EA/NEPA approved before we move forward with the site work. And we'll be talking to you guys more about this in the special meeting as well. For Senate Bill 395, Sean has gotten in a request for grant money associated with reimbursement of the criteria document at $280,000, as well as it's not referenced on here. We hadn't at the time of this report done this, but Sean also was able to get an application in for $140,000 request for reimbursement of the earthwork observation proposal, scope of work / proposal. So there's two applications in for Senate Bill 395. We're not hugely optimistic, but cautiously, maybe cautiously optimistic that maybe funding may come from this, but we're just waiting to hear back on that. So we'll obviously keep the board posted on those. And then no updates. Philanthropy discussions are continuing. We've continued to work on renderings. We got some just yesterday that are they're really looking wonderful and very exciting. And I know that Chelsea and Sean and Judy will be getting those out there for the philanthropy purposes. To share with the community the future look of their facility. No updates on the community project funding. So no updates on that. So we'll keep you posted on that. Still schedule fully dependent on maximizing work this year, as Sean referenced. We are looking at an 8 to 9 month delay if we can't get in the ground this year, if we can't get our timber harvest and grading and site work started this summer and fall, and we get pushed to where Bolt has to start beginning of next year. It's more than just
what the cost
time this year.
Little less than $3 million.
The cost of the delay will be less than $3 million.
Just a little less.
And we're
2.7.
So isn't it worth something for us to pay a little extra to get the timber harvest?
Well, it's not about that. It has nothing to do with the timing on the timber harvest. It has everything to do with NEPA.
But I thought the timber harvest is an issue too. If we can't get the timber moved until the bad weather sets in.
Well, I think we'll get the timber harvest. I'm looking for it. I think that we're going to have another submission on this last RFP, pretty sure. I'm less worried about the LTO and getting the timber harvest. I'm more concerned about the time frame for USDA approving our NEPA. And then the decision from the board about whether or not we go at risk, which is going to be a big point of discussion in that special board.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and the 9 month thing is really interesting because Donna and Bolt did a really good job of kind of looking at all the components of the build. And the big thing that hurts us and delays us the most is the dry-in capability, being able to do all the groundwork, get everything done, and then drying it in so that we can actually work through the winter. So that's the right. Do you agree, Donna?
Yeah, next year. So getting to a point at the end of next fall, before the snow comes next fall, 2024, getting the building dried in so we can work through winter of 2024, 2025. Otherwise, those months are lost as well as the ones this year.
So if we do a push, we're looking at August 26th before we start first patient.
Yeah.
And a cost of, what was the delta in cost for the delay? 2 million?
You're right, it's just under 3 million.
$7 million additional cost based upon delays. And there's a lot of components that go into that we can explain. It's all spelled out. So it's not a great place to be.
Yeah. So similar story with budget. So schedule and budget are, is very dependent on NEPA right now. NEPA is our potential problem that we have right now. Moving on through design, we received, so as you know, the site design, the grading and site design was submitted to Plumas County. We've gotten their comments back from Department of Public Works. We haven't gotten them from planning or building, but they don't anticipate. What Department of Public Works told us is go ahead and answer the Public Works comments, get your drawings back in. We don't anticipate planning and building to have anything significant. So we are looking to get those responses back in end of next week and anticipate grading and site permit. Again, just trying to knock out the constraints that we can as we're working to get the NEPA constraint, the big NEPA constraint resolved. So working to get site and grading permits so we're ready when NEPA's ready. The core and shell has been submitted. So that is, core and shell is the foundation and the skin of the building, and all the infrastructure to get to the skin of the building, making sure the utilities get into the footprint of the building. All that has been submitted to HCI/OSHPD on the 23rd, and we now are able to focus 100% on the interiors package, the nuts and bolts of it all, and we finished design development, got sign off from the end users for the interiors as far as where everything's laid out, what kind of equipment we need, where the cabinets are, the general layout. And then now we're going to get into the nitty gritty, going into construction documents and talk about every single wall elevation, every single drawer pull, door pull, the look of the whole thing. And that's what's going, where there's getting pricing for all the pricing and design for all the IT components. We just had a meeting today to talk about, make sure Apex is on board with what we need from them as we move into construction documents. So really getting into the nitty gritty now of the interiors. And the plan is to submit that to HCI in November or December. No real update on medical equipment. They're just moving along with us within the design, also entering, obviously, same time, the construction documents, just like the architectural and engineering design is. We are looking at groundbreaking ceremony, again, pending NEPA, on looking at planning that July 25th. And we do have within the RFP to the licensed timber operators to have them participate in that. So Chelsea's working on that, trying to get in line. They're trying to get prepared for being able to start timber operations that week. And then as wanted to put in here the approval of the fire sprinkler, just as we had talked about previously, needing to do that in order to keep the design, the interiors design moving forward, as we're getting the pricing for the overall building. Need this to move ahead prior to that. That concludes the report, and I am open to any questions.
Yeah, questions for Donna?
Yeah.
Anyone? No. Pretty thorough, covered a lot of territory there, Donna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Sean, I guess you are up now for the
Apologize for not having
CEO
a-
report.
Yeah, not having a written report, I'll even give a verbal report if you don't mind. I'd like to start off, I like to do my sort of monthly review, of what's been happening. It's been Cerner, and Bill, and the other stuff, but let's focus on Cerner. We are in our 4th week of conversion. I can tell
Scheduled
you,
for how many weeks?
we are in our 4th week post-conversion.
Fine. Is this you?
What's that?
How many weeks is considered? No.
Conversion,
Yeah.
as long as we want it to be.
You want to have my question.
It's conversion, in my opinion, is gonna continue until we're happy. They're gonna try to push us to a post-conversion, and we're gonna battle that the entire way. But that being said, I know Brian's probably gonna give a little more of a summary. I've done probably 3 of these electronic health record conversions, and I wanna hand it to the staff at Seneca. They have completely engaged in the process, adopted it 100%. The staff are into Cerner. They are finding the little issues, and they're registering these issues, and we're resolving these issues. It actually went pretty smoothly. I mean, boy, knock on wood, because we're only in our 4th week, but for the most part, there was nothing that is a patient care issue that popped up, and when it does, it gets managed right away. Steve and his team have done an incredible job with RevCycle, like really good job. Normally, that's the thing that gives me the most heartburn. We're not out of the woods, but I can tell you that in all of the ones that I've done, this has been the smoothest. It could be preparation, it could be the attitude of everybody. Everybody's attitude was, let's lean into this thing and let's learn it, including our physicians. So I will just say that at this point, today, right here, this minute, this second, I'm extremely pleased with where things are going. We've been really riding Cerner very hard. We're not giving them any slack, any leash at all when it comes to staying engaged with us.
What kind of pushback are you getting from them?
Oh, plenty. Yeah. But I think it's pretty typical. They want to install something and move on. They want to turn you over to another team as quickly as possible. We've been holding their feet to the fire. Brian's been doing a great job. Everyone's been doing a great job of saying, this is not out of conversion. Do not leave us in the dirt here. You are going to stick around. So they've heard it from top to bottom in this
Are we still
organization.
customizing
We're not.
at all? Or-
We're doing customization for doctors around their favorites and things like that, but the system itself is not customized. It has gone to best practice. It's great having Brian here because he has a different perspective. He's seen a different implementation of this. So he's calling out things that, hey, why isn't this here? Why isn't that there? So it's really great to have that visibility to the system. Anyway, once again, right this minute, right this second, I'm very pleased with the work that's been done at Seneca. We're well ahead of the game. Still working through some issues, but we got it. So that's my month in review because it has been literally Cerner every day, all day. I want to update you on Senate Bill 525 and AB 869. So Senate Bill 525, which is the minimum wage to healthcare workers, passed the Senate unanimously. Didn't even have any opposition at all. I think there may be a few votes from the Republican side for the right-leaning side of the Senate, which is very small. This flew through the Senate. They didn't even question it. So it went into committee, and it's actually in the assembly right now. They did send it to committee to take a look at the financial impact of this thing. My indication is where I thought that the governor might be leaning against it. I think that's tune has changed. I think that you know where your bread is buttered when you're running for president. So it's usually in the labor market. So I suspect that 525 is probably going to end up in some sort of a converted version, some sort of a amended version. I suspect that we're probably going to see the working end of 525, unfortunately. I think that they're going to try to mitigate the impact. I don't know how much they're going to try to mitigate the impact, though. It's going to be sort of a slow burn. It's not going to hit all at once. They're going to burn it into us. But ultimately, I can say the absorption of 525 is going to be a major problem for all healthcare statewide. When we're already financially, many of them are struggling. I mean, you read anything, they've lost billions of dollars, even the big ones. post-COVID and with the worker shortage and things like that. So I don't know what's going to happen here, but it flew through the Senate. It was like butter, just went right through. Assembly Bill 869, which is the seismic, kicking the can down the road. There is no funding sources for any kind of seismic retrofitting. This is not going to get any funding. We are in a deficit budget right now, and the biggest budget ever put forward in California has been placed forward. Don't know how we're going to pay for that in a deficit, but the bottom line is there's no money for anything in 869 that's going to try to help out people that need to do retrofitting or build new. But it looks like it's probably going to get through. It's now in the Senate. It passed the Assembly, amended, passed the Assembly, but I think it's going to be a kick the can down the road one more time to probably 2035. Makes no difference for us. I think folks that are seeing that as a win are woefully misdirected, because I think that the cost of doing hospitals in the future are going to be double what it costs now. So I do think that the can's going to get kicked down the road. 3, existing building stuff. Everything right now, with the exception of projects that have been in progress and been put on hold. There will be no, like the Boneyard, we've got plans for it. We could put it to bid, but until we understand our financial position, both from an operations financial perspective and what's happening, it relates to our reserve funds with the new build, there will be no large capital or large projects in the existing facility. We've done a lot, and we've done a lot to prepare, but now it needs to stop until we can really get a good feel for what's happening.
So I guess when you say get a feel for what's happening, what are some of the things this is contingent on?
Well, I think that it's, you know what, it's a contingent upon a lot of things. One thing we talked about earlier was getting our volume up so that our revenue, you know, our revenue feasibility, our feasibility study was based on really rotten volume, and we're doing great. So if we can raise the volume up, we'll start seeing our ability to cash away reserves, put things away, reinvest on top of buying the facility. You know, the debt service is something I got my eye on a lot. You know, what does it look like? When is it going to hit us? What do we have to make extra to pay for the new hospital from the COP perspective and the debt service? So until we really have a good feel for what's happening with our debt service and the investment that we're making, things on this campus are going to slow to a grind. Just the things that we need to keep operational.
I have a question about Heather Smith, the new PA.
Yeah.
That's coming on. Could she help with the walk-in clinic?
They're all good. There's a new requirement for any physician that comes on that if there's not if the provider is not here, that they will rotate through the different offices. Like Dr. Schilling and Dr. Russo had no problem with that. There's a little bit of an issue with legacy, some of the legacy folks, but yeah, my expectation is when there's nobody in there or lunches, you know, that they rotate through the family medicine and they pick up a couple of urgent care or walk-in patients. That's the new expectation. And that kind of leads to the whole of where we are. We've done a lot of work in the hospital. We did centralization in the clinic, and now it is medical staff's time in the spotlight as it relates to setting expectations. And we've already done it to Cerner. We've already implemented changes where physicians have to put their orders in. That was not happening here. We were kind of skipping around that. There are new expectations around completing your paperwork. You know, we've given you a good system. We've given you access. So things are starting to tighten down a little bit about how medical staff provides a service to Seneca and the community. We're in there too. We're a partner in there too. So a lot of stuff happening in that regard, and that's going to continue on through 23, 24.
Because I know that can help reduce liability as well.
Absolutely.
And reduce issues with claims. It wasn't an order put in or something not documented.
Exactly.
That just really.
And documentation, we've been all over, you know, in the training that you need to document these things. So our documentation actually is getting better.
Good.
Getting better.
Timeframes getting narrowed?
What's that?
Timeframes for completion?
Time frame is when you walk out of this building, your charts are done, especially in the ER and the hospital. We do have time frames built by the bylaws and by Title 22 for clinic, but even then, our expectations are that things move quickly and you get this stuff done. And so far, it's it's been pretty great to watch our doctors.
Well, that's a
in
big
the server
improvement, because I
space.
remember times when it wasn't.
For it to be 6 months old.
Yeah.
Right, which is not only a care issue, but it's a claims issue.
There's probably better reports too that Cerner can now provide you with.
Yes. Yeah, we have a thing called lights on, so we can actually see what's day to day, what's not being done. So there's that. So that's for the existing. The new facility, so obviously Donna has gone over the design. We've been in design. They've done a really good job, both our staff and Bolt HGA has done a really nice job with narrowing in on this and staying in budget. You know, we have to fight over a few things, you know, like curtains. I'm just kidding. Sometimes it feels like we're down to, can we get a larger trash can? And I don't know, because so it's quite an experience to tell you. The maintenance building, which is not part of the Bolt contract, we did go out. We're going to be going out. We've got all the maintenance building's going to be across from the hospital. It's going to have central supply, housekeeping, and maintenance. And it's going to be just like a hangar, a metal building that's heated and partitioned up for offices. We are starting our process for defining that RFP. I already have some numbers in my head that I've already kind of put feelers out there for what this is going to cost. So that's going to be, we're going to be designing that. We already actually have the way it's designed. We just now have to get it out to RFP. The renderings, Donna mentioned the renderings. The hospital is absolutely beautiful, everybody. Can't wait to bring the new renderings to the community. They're not that. I like the new design, color schema, palettes, so much better than this. So the work it took to get from 59,000 to 47,000 and protecting program and really looking at space and getting the budget was a great exercise. And I think it's yielded an amazing looking hospital that's quite functional. So pretty excited to get it out there. So those renderings are coming out. They'll be out in marketing materials. Our 3D is going to be coming out. Groundbreaking, we talked about that. We're already working on the groundbreaking piece. And then just the fence that we talked about for repurposing traffic and where patients come in and stuff. That fence is going to be delayed until we start doing our licensed timber operation. So while it's going to happen, we are seeing fewer and fewer people going around the clinic because we're now redirecting. So that's really all I have. Bad thing that we all heard, Plymouth News. That's a real hit for us in getting our information out. When Plymouth News is no longer going to be there, we really have to come up and really have to think, and I've actually asked for a meeting with Chelsea, what is our strategy? What are we going to do? How are we going to do this where we want to get information out to the community? I don't like using social media because, you know, it's social media, but that's a big hit to Plymouth County, in my opinion. Huge hit. So not sure how that's going to work. We do need to come up with a plan though for distribution of information, getting things out to the community. And I welcome all input.
I was just shocked. I was in Georgetown recently. I don't know if you all know where Georgetown is up there. They had the best little community newspaper.
Yeah.
And I was just, I thought about that, and I was thinking, this is like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Boy, I wish we still had that. Now we have nothing.
I know it's hard to start a
Less than
fire.
what we had.
Well, it's great news, great information, and it was fire starter too. It's not on my paper anymore. So that's a real hit to everybody in this community, in my opinion. But Seneca is going to really take a look at how we can continue communicating out to our public, to the community. So
Well, I
that's all I
do
have.
think that, and you have been working with the chamber and their little
The town
town
chatter,
chatter and
I
things
think
like
it's going to
that.
become a
So
bigger part of.
I think looking at larger utilization of that and maybe giving them a little help with it
Yeah.
in order to enable that might be the answer. to
Yeah,
that.
Chelsea provides so
I know you
much.
can hardly wait to take that off.
But anyway, our website, we're gonna start putting things out. She's going to design our website. Our patient portal, by the way, for Cerner is coming along. It's gonna be beautiful. It's very friendly, you know, where you can actually message your doctor and they can actually see a message waiting for them. So there's gonna be a lot of things going on as it relates to our outreach to the community. We just have to reconfigure it a little bit without Plymouth News.
Cerner will actually help with that.
It will.
Yes, it has capabilities that we didn't have before with our old systems, messages instantly to all of our patients.
Yeah. Our Cerner appointment reminder module it will be coming so that you'll actually get texts on your phone, say, are you going to be there? Yes, no, reschedule. So we have a lot of things going on as it relates to outreach on the clinical side, but for marketing materials and things like that, we're going to have to really be creative. Okay, I have nothing. If you have questions, please, I'm ready to field them.
Questions?
The only question I have, because just hearing about our planning department being down to one person, and that being Tracy.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned that anything we have with our project that involves something that needs to get through planning, that we really,
I think we're done.
I think we are too, and that's why I was real happy to hear the honest report.
Yeah, in fact,
Because when I heard that, I thought, oh,
when
man.
Tim resigned, boy, I tell you, Donna and myself, we're like, we gotta get this done. So we are down to board of supervisors meetings. We are talking to Gretchen to get the tax sharing resolution, because we need to get through county. Now we're at LAFCO, and LAFCO seems very friendly to us.
Yeah, I know, it's separate from planning.
Yeah, but
I just.
we're done with the county.
It's gonna be a while before they get
Yeah,
people in.
yeah. So now we're just dealing with the heads.
Question about Cerner.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are you finding turnover at Cerner?
Oh, yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Ellison has wreaked some havoc at Cerner over the last.
There's been major layoffs. There was a major layoff
Yep.
a week, 10 days ago. I
Yes.
think.
Yeah, it's,
Is that impacting us?
We're not in that space yet, so
So
one of the
Millennium?
things that Ellison did with the first on is they stopped the installation group and it's outsourced. So that's what Sean's talking about, us holding off from getting in from the installation group into Oracle
Cerner
Cerner
world.
proper support, because I am very worried about that, because when I left my last place a year ago, it wasn't great, and they've laid off a lot since. What S&P, the company that we had, helped me out at my last site as well, so it was great to work with them again. They really educated on how to enter the tickets, so you don't get what's called ticket tennis. You ask them a question, they just throw one right back at you to kind of stop the clock on their side. So the staff here has been really good about giving enough detailed information on the first ticket that we get issues resolved quickly. That was a big issue I had at my other site, was, bed broken, what's broken, you need more information than that. It's something definitely needs to keep an eye on, especially with the DOD and VA kind of on hold now, they're cutting back even more. They keep on cutting back the Kansas City facility.
Yeah.
The conference has been combined into one Oracle conference now, does not have a specific Cerner conference anymore. So the only positive thing I can see out of it is getting into the Oracle cloud, because it's more robust back end than Cerner has themselves.
Can
But
somebody,
it's that transition time as they're weaning away the Cerner people to move it to the Oracle cloud that they're gonna pay attention to. Same thing with a lot of the services Cerner had worked with, they were working with Google and they were working with Amazon before. Well, Ellison's not gonna work with Google and Amazon. He's gonna pull it all back into Oracle cloud. So watching those services transfer is gonna be key as well.
so what, I'm a little feeling out of sync here. What's driving the layoffs?
Larry Ellison.
Yeah, his profit.
Oracle
been acquired by
purchased Cerner.
I'm sorry?
Oracle purchased Cerner.
So it's on the stock price, his profit margin. I think
Cerner's,
there's a lot of waste in Cerner as it is, and it's more of a service organization than what he's used to. He's used to delivering a product that somebody else customizes and develops. Cerner is the product. They need the internal development. It's not, it's not giving it out to, Kellogg and let them develop the database and do whatever on the back end. This is internal development. And he needs to kind of wake up and understand that side, you can't cut the people there.
I think we're in good shape given the product that we have.
Yeah.
Were you a Millennium?
We were Cerner at
Well,
North Bay.
Yeah,
Which
you're
one?
the big one now.
I think so.
We're on Community Works.
Yes, Community Works is different than Millennium.
Yeah.
Millennium, I wouldn't want to be there right now.
No, most of those are converted.
They're going to Epic,
Yes.
yes. So I think we're okay, but Oracle is a very powerful company with a very unique leader, and they're not well received in the healthcare
You know, the craziest thing about every large organization like HP, IBM, Oracle, they've all steered away from healthcare for a reason. It's complicated, it's difficult. I think this is the first big tech person. Google tried it. Google Health, they tried it. Everyone's tried it, okay? And they all backed off.
Microsoft did with GE too.
Microsoft, and they backed off.
Well,
This
Microsoft
he went
is
all in.
nuanced now, so.
He went all in.
Yeah.
When GE still had Centricity out,
Yeah.
they partnered with them really deeply for data integration, and then Microsoft.
So this is the big first tech company that's gone all in a full purchase of an electronic health record, and it's a totally different world. We'll see how they do.
I wonder if other companies have shied away because of liability potential.
I don't know. It's
Yeah,
just
the
complexity.
It's not liability.
Complexity.
It's not a consumer product. It is a product that is so specialized and touches so many parts of the healthcare continuum. That's the scary part. It's not that part. It's the entire soup to nuts, and that is a huge risk. So he jumped all in.
Yeah.
Bought it outright.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You think he's gonna move toward more of a universal healthcare record
They're all thinking of that.
eventually?
His goal is Neil's original goal was to launch a record accessible to anybody.
On your phone. Anyway.
But also, no matter where you can see. Oracle, when I went to the conference last October, their goal is to move everything to a web-based thing in Oracle Cloud, but that's a decade away. They've been
Fire apps. Yeah.
before that's really in play.
It's gonna be interesting.
But, the big places are gonna fight because they're going to give up their infrastructure, going to give up control. It's all gonna become Gmail, kind of the community works well, just delivered, and you accept it as
It's
is.
gonna be a good time to sit on the sidelines and watch it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be pretty crazy.
Anything else, Sean?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, Jerry, I just want to make sure you're still with us.
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Judith, I think you are up for a CNO report.
So I don't have a lot to report on this month because I too have been completely involved in Cerner, and the new hospital design it's all been quite consuming. But as far as Cerner goes, just to tag on to what everyone else has said, and we're tackling multiple issues every single day, and we're literally doing root cause analysis on every single issue to make sure that it wasn't a build issue versus a training issue, et cetera. And a lot of what is driving that process is Steve's team, because we have daily charge reconciliation. So we're really, really focused on making sure that we're not missing anything that we should be accounting for. Because from a clinical space, all of that is going pretty well, except for some issues we've had with lab because the multitude of interfaces that they have with. But so they've had a lot of glitches that every day it's getting better and better. Even this morning, I think we got a really good report. Radiology had some issues in that regard as well. Just, things not being able to come back into our space. But as far as just a clinical workflow, that is all going really well. I think you'll be very happy to see what the physician documentation actually looks like, what your information will look like on the portal. But it is very much all consuming right now. But I feel like every day it just gets a little bit better and we're getting more comfortable, and it's becoming, we want this process to become part of our daily workflow. That it's not just, the few weeks post conversion, that every day we're making sure that our charges are dropping, that our charts are complete, and all of that. So it's been an excellent exercise, and I feel like it's actually brought a lot of our staff together and given them an appreciation of what other departments have been doing in the background all these years without our knowledge. And going, well, now that the doctors need to, put in their own codes, and the nurses need to make sure these codes are dropping from a technical site. So it's been very, very good. As far as our usual COVID and public health update, I don't know how much I'm going to be reporting on that. forward to see. There's not a lot to report since all the public health emergencies have ended. Katie Neely's doing a fantastic job as our infection prevention nurse, trying to keep up with all of the changes between CDPH, CDC, CMS, et cetera. And it looks like we are not even required as healthcare providers to even be vaccinated
Anymore.
after all of them. And so, so we are probably going to even stop having our employees attest to feeling well when they arrive to work after tomorrow. And there will just be signs posted reminding them, like, if you don't feel well, you probably need to go check into the walk-in clinic or something. But please don't bring your illness to work, because chances are, it could be COVID, but it's unlikely to be, and we certainly are not seeing hospitalizations related to COVID.
Seems like a fair question, COVID or no COVID. How are you feeling?
Sick is sick.
We've got, they send us boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of test kits now, because they don't know what to do with them. I mean, no one's getting tested anymore, and it's even rare. I think we gave one vaccine last week, and I think that was the first time in maybe 4 weeks that we've actually had someone from the community ask for that.
It's interesting, I mean, it's even, have a large family, and anytime someone gets sick, they're reaching for the home test.
Yep.
To see.
Which is prudent, because it's definitely still out there, and it probably always will be. I like to watch and see what's happening on the East Coast, because a lot of times that's what's being brought in from around the world, and then it travels to the West Coast eventually.
Yeah.
So
There's inevitably going to be another one because Pfizer, Moderna, their shareholders are demanding it. Can I say? Is this being recorded? Okay.
But I'll save a placeholder for public health. If there's something specifically that the board wants to hear about from a public health perspective, I am a public health nurse, so I would be happy to do any research or bring to you what you're really looking for.
Just wanted to circle back to a Cerner question, maybe you covered it and I didn't hear it, but exchange of information with Cerner and other entities.
Yes.
How's that rolling out?
It's coming.
2 points. So we've got our interface to Sac Valley MedShare, which is our local HIE, but along with Cerner came Commonwealth. So a lot of our CCDs and CDAs go into Commonwealth, which is a sort of a unification of medical records for population health, things like if we have pandemics where it's hot, where it's not. So we do feed into the larger.
What about just lower level care coordination?
So there's a couple things that they're in the process of coming. There's direct messaging now to get rid of the fax machines a little bit. The issue with direct messaging is there is no countrywide address book.
Right.
You have, if you know somebody's direct message address, when you establish the relationship with them, then it's more physician to physician communication about that.
Secure.
Through the portal, if the patient happens to get a direct address from another provider, they can communicate information that's in our portal to that provider. Commonwealth is, still the government's a little bit in the way that you have to say, yes, I'm going to share my information from Seneca, but the other place has to, if you've been seen someplace else, you have to advance yes at that other place as well. So, there's great scripts out there that we are educating the population when they come in. This is your benefit. This is for your benefit.
Yeah.
And then another facility that I had worked, that had helped us at the other place, had a great script that if it fails at registration, how to deal with it when you're in the ER. We explain it at the clinical level of the people coming from vacation. Your primary care is going to know what happened in the ED here or the walking clinic that you're here. So it's for your benefit to say yes.
So the upshot is that yes, we are engaged in sharing where we can.
Yeah.
So of course, I go to behavioral health all the time, and I think we need to coordinate better with behavioral health.
That's a little tricky. That's a little more tricky.
Yeah. I know.
That'd be more direct messaging than than the common level or the
You know,
epidemic.
not to go into a lot of it, way back when they were talking about direct trust, which is the way of doing it, behavioral health actually asked for an exemption out of direct trust. They did. They said that behavioral health should not be part of this. It needs to have its own special universe because it's so sensitive. I thought it was really fascinating. But this is back 10 years ago.
Yeah, the heads are not connected to the body, so you don't need to touch it.
But outside of that, we're finalizing the immunization chain with the state. Our immunizations are going out, and we're able to pull immunizations. Same thing.
Pulsed forms are going to be a part of it in the future.
What about frequent flyers? Patients that are seen at Better
That's
Health
part of the
or in
PNP.
Reno when they come to our
Well,
yard.
that's part of the PNP program, and
We
it's built in.
call that our
Shelley, we call it
loyalty program.
Yeah, it's our loyalty program.
Loyalty program.
But no, you don't,
There he is.
you no longer have to go to the PNP website, that's kind of in the background as they're registered.
Yeah,
This place does a great job of collecting social security numbers, which is, a key identifier at registration.
huh.
But the same thing, there was in Massachusetts, there was a statewide notification
Yeah.
of patients going to the ED or.
Yeah, but Massachusetts had one of the best state HIEs in the entire country.
And, don't believe Mickey.
Oh, that's what they said.
Yeah, because it was on Mickey's job. But CMS has taken that to be a countrywide type process now. Again, the issue is, there's not a national registry, but even though everybody has an FBI number, to provide, we had issues where notifications going up to Vermont because the doctor had the same name. They're doing name matching now, and they're not doing.
We're getting there.
Well, we had a system at North Bay where my care coordinators and the social workers could go into a system that is in the background
Yeah.
of Cerner,
Yeah.
and they could see if the patients went to like Sutter Vallejo
Right.
or Richmond
But,
and were violent in the ER
If it
or.
was submitted by that agency.
Right,
you
you
can
had,
see it.
right.
we are signed up with one of those groups.
They
Yeah,
are.
depending on who's sending whatever.
Right,
They are also.
it has to be,
But we're tied into.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Things
that can be very helpful.
So they-
Good to hear social workers involved.
Oh, yeah, oh, they're amazing people.
in those
So
patients.
another area that we were struggling with a little bit
They
was
do,
the
but
line,
their information
which we just got going
goes to lab
today,
work.
was NRC. So that's.
Was your what?
NRC.
Oh.
So that's where we're seeking feedback from patients on their experience. And we really rely on that a lot, even though some people have unrealistic expectations of what their experience should have been.
Right.
We do rely on those and we follow up 100% on those. And so that just started working this afternoon. We finally got our first comment post go live.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a 5 out of 5.
Is
So,
it?
you know, so
Top that up.
it really does help us kind of keep a pulse check.
Yeah.
The rest of my report, we did start our CNA program, so there have been other operations that we've had to keep going in spite of all these interruptions and distractions. So CNA program is going, we have 4 students enrolled. It started on June 13th, it'll go 12 weeks. We have an LVN who just graduated and got his nursing license on Monday, and we hired him today. Let's see, we have an ACLS class going on currently today and tomorrow. We're on site at Seneca.
Who gives that?
We use the Center of Education Excellence and Achievement.
Okay.
And I said there was no regulatory updates, but then the Board of Pharmacy showed up yesterday. So we will be getting an update on that. We actually had invited them in because when we went to Cerner, we also upgraded our Pyxis. So we went from the 400s to the ES, so cloud-based. And so we needed to have the Board of Pharmacy have a license, those medication dispensing machines. And then, but once you let them in the door, then they can look at everything. And so, but they were very helpful and they had some suggestions for some of our pharmacy policies. One of our pharmacists was here on site during the survey. And when I get that report, I'll report back to you on that. And That's all I have to report unless you have any questions.
Questions for Judith?
Ken, can I just make a comment real quick?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Judy and to Casey and Stephanie and any other staff that were involved with the auxiliary luncheon, because they did a really, really nice job and was very well received. And I think the auxiliary ladies had a good time, and it was just really well put together.
Thank you, Jerry. It was a lot of fun to plan, and it was a lot of fun to receive their giant check for $33,000.
Yes, it was amazing. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll move on to departmental reports. And I noticed that for IT, we have TK and a verbal report.
I don't know if TK's actually texted me yet. I don't know about the EC.
Okay. So move on with that. So we did have a report submitted from HR. Any questions about that? None? Okay, thank you for the submission of the report. Right here. And then
I like Sean's piece in the HR report, the newsletter.
oh, in the newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask you about that. What your
piece?
Your piece, yeah.
What do you want to know? We started experiencing a little bump in drama.
I guess that was my question, because what was the impetus of that?
Yeah, we started getting a little bump in drama. I think people were under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And we started to kind of slide back into that old culture. And we started to eat each other again. I just thought I had to put something out there that says, look, you gotta stop. It makes it hard.
I got a quote. Do we have an ultrasound technician on staff?
We do part-time, yeah.
Part-time meaning
3 days a week. I think it is 2.
scheduled 3 days a week?
Scheduled, yes. If she's around, then we can try and get a hold of her. She works in Oroville, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, only scheduled 2 to 3 days.
So we have an opening for full-time.
Yeah, we do. Frankly, we don't drive enough volume for full-time here. I would like to see a first of all, that getting filled is probably, it's a nice huge chance in Sahara, because there's not very many of them. But yes, we do have an opening for a full-time.
Did we ever purchase a butterfly?
Not yet.
Nope, but I got a meeting coming up. We held off because it's a Cerner implementation, it's a Cerner interface. And I wanted to stabilize Cerner before we go to Butterfly, but we are going to. I have a meeting on my calendar.
Butterfly is a handheld device that.
ER doctors look.
If you want to find vein,
Okay.
Yeah.
or
Okay.
if you want to check to see the blood clot.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do a quick scan.
I had somebody ask me today, they thought that maybe they had a blood clot. Does Seneca have an ultrasound? And I didn't know
It's
anything.
limited, sort, not as much as our MRI is limited. We have a little more
Yeah.
availability, but yeah, we do have to send a lot of people to Banner if, to rule out
Ultrasound.
blood clots.
But would a butterfly device help in that?
It's really practitioner dependent.
How skilled they are.
Really? I use one of those at Butterfly is sponsored.
Can we call you?
I am available.
We could put you on call, Rich.
But I'm serious. That seemed like a very simple device to
Well,
use.
and it's amazing the images that
That they get.
that you get now.
Yeah.
Yes, so the hold off on it was that it does have an integration to Cerner, and I wanted to stabilize Cerner.
I get that.
So
That's
we're
important,
definitely
but it's
pushing.
cheap. I mean,
It's not too
I know
bad.
we put,
Not too bad.
yeah, and we talked about holding off spending bucks. I would suggest you get one, particularly.
A
if
couple of our new ER doctors are all trained on it. They're already, they come from other places. We're kind of rotating some new ER doctors through, kind of testing them. Almost every one of them is, hey, do we have a handheld here? They use it all the time. Yeah. So yes, I do have a meeting coming up to discuss time to do that.
Okay,
Anything else?
gonna move on. Well, we have a Marketing report. On the agenda, it said no report, but there is a report.
Chelsea, do you want to talk, I mean, just the timber thing was a big deal, but Collins Pine continues to be an outstanding partner.
Yeah, so timber harvest, Collins Pines is essentially using up the timber.
The big timbers, yeah.
Okay, so Collins is working with us to possibly donate some of the heavy timbers for the hospital. So we are just trying to get together a list of what we need, and then they're gonna let us know if they have the capability to make those items for us. And if so, what the key is on that. So they've been great to work on, and they are gonna facilitate whatever they're doing that.
Big shout out to Collins, they're just great partners.
So I'm assuming wherever design change is still going to feature some. big
Oh, yeah,
timbers, right?
oh, yeah.
Yes. So the design will still feature some of the heavy timbers. Jerry also asked me to update on the potential groundbreaking ceremony. So potentially, we have a date scheduled that we're not gonna release yet to the public because things are very fluid and it might be changing. So once that's solidified, that date, we will release it to the public, but it will be something that everybody will be welcome to and invited to. It's something that we are making, we're definitely making sure we get an invitation to people that we know really need to be there, whether we're calling them and talking to them or sending them an email. But we will also be doing posts on social media. We'll have it put out over the radio. We'll have flyers put around town. So when we do this groundbreaking ceremony, we will try to let as many people know in the community that they're welcome to come and that it's happening. So that was one thing to go over, you guys. Any questions specifically on marketing report?
I just noticed there's a lot of stuff going on in general marketing.
There's not. There's not right now.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chelsea.
I guess that takes us up to our closed session, so we will adjourn our open session, our regular session, take 5 minutes. It's 6 after, so 11 after or so, we'll come back and reopen in the closed session. Do we know if TK is going to be able to?
Yeah, I'll check. Do we need to shut it down, or can I do that?
Stop the recording.
She, I believe, did. So I'm going to send everybody to the waiting room.
Oh, I got it.
So you had meetings and everything that you've just been to with Collins?
I do, I have an annual meeting, I've been doing it 32 years.
I thought that might be the one you were referring to.
Yeah, I do it in Ojai, California. I've done it there for 25 years. And I was there all from the last week.
What are you? Are you the polling guy?
What positions do you, other positions do you have? Seem like you're very much in the know.
My background is hospital administration.
Right.
And I was involved, got into it because I was involved in implementing the first medical information system.
Oh.
And then I became a CLO of the hospital outside of the IT world.
Which hospital?
Yakima Valley Memorial, 240 bed hospital, Washington State. But then I was recruited to Stanford to be their chief information officer in the 80s. Then I went back to Bay State Medical.
She said she's going to start the recording right now. Okay. All right. The Seneca Board of Directors has adjourned the closed session, and we are now back into open session, which we will also adjourn at this time. There's no reportable action in the closed session. Next meeting is, thank you,
July 12th,
July 12th.
1 o'clock special.
1 o'clock. Our next regular board meeting will be July 27th at 3 p.m.
Brilliant.
Okay. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.